ready to start? Go ahead.
We have two folks.
All right, the Personnel and Finance Committee meetings in order. Clark, we're gonna start with the matrix report.
Okay, thank you. All right, results for January. Really, the only interesting thing, we go through this each month, and I just try to point out the most, some of the more salient points. But these are our primary depository accounts. You can see here the general fund, the general income tax is as of 1/31 has approached $1,160,000. So that's nicely significant. The major, one other thing that I'll point out, and it'll be later in the slide, I'm just trying to give you a heads up. Every month, the general fund, which is the big shouldered fund for the city, they charge other funds for allocations. What happens is the general fund those other funds, the general fund won't collect all that money. They'll just charge the fund. And then sometimes when the general fund needs the money, they'll draw it from the funds. And that's what happened in this major and local street fund is just because of, the government shutdown and those kinds of things, in order to keep that general fund, the big shouldered fund liquid, we ended up drawing some of those, starting to collect some of that money. There's not really a transfer between funds, it's just a paying what was owed, okay? Big difference. Okay, here's where we stand through January 31st. The fiscal year is about 60% complete. Just for comparison purposes, if you just look down this column here, it helps you kind of get some perspective of where we stand relative to the year. For the general fund, we're down by about $306,000. That will change in February. The reason for that is because, I'll spoil it now. We received our $383,000 reimbursement for the fire truck, which was great news. Great news. So, my concern was with the federal government shutdown. They received 40%. The state receives 40% of their money from the federal government. It was just something. It was just I was a little concerned, but we did get those funds in, and that's great news for us as far as our liquidity goes. So the next one is just the revenue and expenditures by fund. Again, comparing the 59% to the to the expenses and the revenues for the year, kind of gives you a sense of where we stand. Again, CDBG, it's starting to, they're slowly starting to catch up to the, percentage complete. We'll talk more about that a little later. General fund activity relative to the budget. And here's our revenues. What you're going to see, and I just wanted to point this out, is, we're a little, you see these numbers here, and there's a lot that goes into it. Well, we have money set aside in the tax account right now. Okay, that is not in the general fund. It's an agency fund. It's off. It's a trust fund. It's off by itself. What happens is we're going to disperse money to the brownfield. We're going to bring money into the general fund, and money's going to go out. It will impact this line, but not by that much. But just FYI, there will be that is coming up, and there'll be some netting there, but it won't be too significant. Through this year, we got $380,000 of city income tax that went to the revenue side. Again, about 70% of what we collect goes to revenue. The other 30% is held in a reserve fund for returns. Let me think here if there's anything else that's really significant. We did receive some revenue sharing, which was timely. That helps us out. But nothing else really huge in January.
That,
I'm sorry?
that charge for services at 72%. Can you tell me
Henry,
about that, please?
Commissioner Henry, will you come to the mic, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. Maybe repeat.
Yeah, well, the question is, regarding those charges for services. Everything that is listed there, general fund costs that are charged to the utility account, rubbish revenue gets recorded here. The Gene Clark Park, any revenue from Gene Clark Park gets placed in that, as well as mowing and the marijuana applications, which I think was around $125,000. I still owe commission a report on that. But that's what's included in that number.
Is the mowing a revenue or fines from, what is that mowing?
It's, those are charges for, when we mow somebody's, do ordinance mowing.
Okay.
That's a charge for that service.
Okay.
Or it is, I would characterize it as a fine, but
And
it really is a charge because
charge.
we have provided a service. It wasn't as though we didn't do anything. We actually went out and mowed that lot.
Okay, thank you.
Okay? I'm sorry.
Just a second. Commissioner Adams.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. The tax, revenue shares, it went up? If so, by what percentage from last year or the year before?
Well, it's this is really kind of a bit of a timing issue.
Yeah.
When we received the revenue versus last year, I think our budget for this year, which is it's taken from the state.
Yeah.
The state, they
Yeah.
prepare a report and they say this is about what you're going to receive.
Yeah.
And it's usually pretty close.
Okay, I guess I just asked that question through the chair because I remember, gosh, has it been 4 years now? I was at a county meeting and there was a gentleman there that was, that had the terrific news to the county that meant the township, village, and in the city, that we will be going back to 100% of receiving our timeshare. So I'm just trying to just keep up to date.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yes.
Mr. Hoard.
Yes, Michael Boyd, 972 Pavone. Question, going forward, will there be another breakout for charges of services for Gene Clark Park? Normally that was one line item so we could see what the services were bringing and generating a revenue of funds there. Is there another breakout for that or
A breakout of the expenses and the revenues.
both?
Both?
Or are you going to capitalize
It's-
them only as charges for services?
It is, I have a breakout, I'm sorry, I have a breakout for revenues, which was, I want to say it was around $125,000, $130,000 for the year, for this year. And those funds were actually transferred into our operating accounts.
Okay.
But that's, as far as, breaking out what those, what the expenditures were, a lot of that gets folded into DPW and their maintenance. And so a breakout can be somewhat difficult.
Okay, just want to know going forward. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Questions?
No, we have Dr. Times that made it.
We're having a little bit of technical difficulty here. There we go. Okay, the interesting stuff. the general fund expenditures. This is where we spend our money for, you know, for the services that the city provides. Anything, you know, nothing really too interesting here. I always like to point out down here, there's a breakout now for general and admin because the numbers are so large. Again, 58% of the year is complete. This is where we stand relative to, you know, pension, insurance costs, and then, you know, the very interesting legal costs, which are running, we're a shade above 50% of our budget so far this year. And with the year 58%, it looks like we're about right on track for the legal costs.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. So, Honorable Chair, I think that's a misstatement in terms of right on track. Legal costs, legal fees should be something that we hope to constrain or decrease, not to be fixed or increasing. But also going back up, now the bouncing up and down of, so let me be sure, so the city manager's budget for the fiscal year is, what is that? Is that 77,018? Is that what we're looking at as going to be the total cost for that expenditure at the top?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so, but for fiscal budget total 18-19, we're talking 154. So we're saying that, what is the net salary? What is the total salary for that position?
Well, I think that the salary is a published dollar amount. What, 90, I believe it's 90,000.
Okay, so the 154 includes what, benefits or something like that?
There's benefits, there's other costs that the city manager's office incurs.
Is that for the office or for the individual?
That's for the office.
To the chair. Okay, to the office, okay.
Yes, yes, that's I'm sorry, these are departmental breakdowns.
Okay,
Okay, so it isn't, you know, we don't really break it down by salary, we break it down by department.
well, that was confused me, because it said city manager, not city manager office or department, so.
And that's just the name we have in the
All the
department.
supplies.
We can change that.
Right, okay.
Stuff like that. Commissioner Henderson.
Yes, I just have a question about, for employees. So, I know this is the budget, have any raises been factored into that? I remember talking, I think it was last year, I had mentioned it last year, I asked a question about raises for staff. And when was the last time raises were given to staff? I know the police department were always giving them money for different things or raising salaries. When was the last time our in-house staff received a raise? And then I have another question to follow that up.
Commissioner, I don't have that information available to me right now, but I can get that.
Please, I
Yeah.
want that information. I have one other question
Yeah.
in terms of job duties. I know everyone has a specific job duty. I'd like to know what those specific duties are, and if anybody's doing anything extra than what their job is required to do, are they being compensated for those particular duties? I need to know that. And I would like to have that information ASAP. Because I know we're always doing raises for the police department, but our regular staff, and I know I don't want to put anybody on the spot right now, but that information is important because I think we need to value our employees and keep good employees. And I guess I'll address the management position when our city manager comes. Thank you.
Honorable Chair, two things, piggybacking off of that, in that evidence base, also, are we looking at making sure that individuals are doing their job? And that leads me into the question, when we talk about Department of Public Works, and I looked at the season that we've had seasonally, that we're just now getting into the snow season, and so we've had, you know, a light winter, and we're getting ready to adjust this part. But I see, and we didn't really do any outward major cleanups or anything like this, but I see a rise, or it looks like a potential increase in the Department of Works, where there wasn't an increase in activity or productivity. So, am I misinterpreting that, Honorable Chair? Will you answer for this?
Well, part of it is, you know, can be that. Some of those increases are because we have changed how we lease equipment, or how we actually, you know, purchase equipment. We lease a lot of equipment now, so you'll see those costs run through there, you know, as monthly expenses, rather than, you know, what the normal business process is that you purchase a piece of equipment, you capitalize it, and then you recognize the depreciation or amortization. In this case, we're leasing a lot of our equipment now, and as a result of that, you'll see those costs really increase, but really there's a lot of other add-ons that come with those leases, you know, the maintenance of the vehicles, et cetera, that do impact that cost. But however, you know, with regards to, you know, where do we stand, you know, I just want to point something out. Again, we're 59% complete with the year, and we're 56% of our costs. So we're in about where we thought we would be, which is, you know, that's positive. We obviously, you know, we always work to improve that number, but, you know, as far as where we stand right now, we're in budget.
Right, but Honorable Chair, the thing that was done in 2018-17 was that we did these leasing agreements to actually decrease our overall cost, because that was supposed to be more cost effective, and so we should not see an escalation, but a de-escalation.
Well, in terms of your total costs, they would go down.
Okay.
It's hard to reflect that, because what you don't see is the upgrades in the equipment, you don't see the reduction in the repairs and maintenance that come through, and so that's a big piece of, you know, that is a big piece of the puzzle. And it isn't just all leases. It's also, you know, building repairs, as we've talked about. There's been a lot of heating and HVAC type of repairs, not only to this building but to the Pawpaw facility. And so, you know, we have had, you know, those kinds of expenses that, you know, that do come through, you know, that do impact that. But again, you know, we're 56%, not really seeing any, you know, what you don't see is a potential for, let's say, a truck breaking down, and then you have to have a large repair to it. If you're leasing that vehicle, and what that does is that kind of normalizes or spreads your costs out a little bit, and maybe a little more now, but in the long run, you know, it's more cost effective.
All right, I have one other additional question about the city income tax and the admin piece. So I know that we're receiving city income tax. Who is processing those? Are you processing those?
No, ma'am.
Who's processing those?
That's done through the city manager's office.
Why? I need that to be explained.
Yeah, Honorable Chair, to speak on that, because that was
Right,
I'm
not done with my question, I'm sorry, let me finish my question. I need to know why the city finance director is not processing that is a problem. There's $80,000 that we budgeted for that particular role. Someone should be doing that particular role. Who's processing that role? I need an answer to that. I need an answer to that today, because that's important. Who's processing that? We budgeted $80,000 for that role, for somebody to process that particular item, and right now, there's 0% spent on that particular item. We need to know the answer to that, we need that today, and I wanna know why the city finance director is not processing that. That is not acceptable.
They won't let it.
But, Honorable Chair, in terms of history of being a part of that, it was gonna be separate and making sure there was no
Right.
conflict of interest
Right.
of anything.
Right.
Of anything that could lead to
Absolutely.
any impropriety, so we
Absolutely.
need to review that, and make sure what the, Commissioner was saying, that that's
Right.
what the record is. The record is that that was to be managed separately and the funds were set aside. And so that the finance director was not privy to that, discussion at that time, so.
He was
Charter,
here.
he's supposed to be here. Where he
He was
at?
here.
Well, no, the finance director, those things were going on, and then he came in.
He
Okay,
was here.
okay.
There you go.
Can I get an answer to that question? Because that's a problem for me.
Chair, may I ask the finance director if he could break down the other, it's pretty large, and I'd like to see maybe what other things are in there besides the IT, utilities, and communication. Is there anything else that's in that amount of money?
Commissioner, there is, the bulk, the bulk of it are those three items, communications, the communication equipment, computer communications, as well as obviously utilities is a big chunk of that. So, I can give you a more detailed breakdown, and I can send that out to the commission for
Oh, okay,
review.
thank you.
Mhm.
I just wanna remind you that if you send it to one, will you send it
Send it
to
to
all?
all.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Huh?
Mr. Henderson?
My question, can you?
Yeah.
Can you answer my question? City manager, I have a question, I'm sorry.
Come on.
She told me.
Go ahead, get a question.
He told me.
Go ahead, get a question.
My question was why we have $80,000 budgeted for city income tax. He said he's not processing them, and processing them, and I asked him why. Because as a city finance director, he should be processing those. My question was, why haven't we spent any money? Because as was pointed out, that was a separate line item. There was no supposed to be any commingling of those funds. Nobody from the city should have been handling that particular item. He said he wasn't doing it, so I asked him who was doing it. He said that he wasn't. So my question was, who's doing it and why there's not a separate person or people doing that particular item? Why is the manager's office processing that? Because that's what he said, processing the city income tax.
We're not processing the city.
No, he said that the city manager's office was handling it. He
So,
wasn't. He didn't have any information.
Here's what happens.
So I need to know why.
Okay. What happens is, Commissioner Henderson, is that as the finance director, per the ordinance,
Mhm.
the finance director gets the summation of what is done. So they get the reporting of the final numbers, what's coming up, how much has been collected. What is being done right now is just the recording of withholding. There is no processing being done in the manager's office. What is being collected or what is being submitted is just being recorded and deposited. There is a separation of duties that has to happen with income tax. It is in a separate bank account. It is completely separate from the general fund bank account that's at Fifth Third. That's all done.
So, well, my question is, so who's processing it? If he's not.
The processing hasn't started.
I'm sorry, not processing, who's doing the work, so who's doing all of that?
Receiving the
Yeah, who's receiving the deposits? Who's
Mrs.
doing-
Galladay is doing that as it stands currently.
So we're not hiring anybody to handle?
We will later on, because if you remember, there was a resolution passed by the commission for processing to be done by Grand Rapids.
Mhm.
Then subsequent to that, we will have a person hired here who will then work with Grand Rapids to basically do the processing, the enforcement, and the compliance.
So my question is then, if that's the case, is Ms. Galladay being compensated for doing additional work?
Is she being
Yes,
compensated?
I'm asking the question, if that is a separate job, is whoever is processing that, are they being compensated for that? Because that's a separate job, isn't it?
Yes.
I'm asking a question. That's
Y-
two
but-
separate jobs.
Yes, and just like a lot of the other employees around here, they're doing several jobs.
Are they being compensated?
No, ma'am.
That's an issue.
No, ma'am.
So, and I think I brought this up before, I asked about raises for the staff. I think for our city clerk and different departments. Water
Mhm.
department, I asked, when was the last time they got a raise? And I remember asking at this particular meeting at a different point. Because I
Mhm.
said, we need to value all of our employees so that we can keep good people working for us.
We-
And I asked about raises. When was the last time they received raises?
If you remember,
I'm just asking.
about 2 years ago, a year or two ago, there was a proposal brought to the commission for raises for employees non-union, and it was denied.
I know I didn't vote.
Yeah, it was denied, it was denied by the commission that the employees that were non-union, so you've had union people, police and AFSCME have gotten raises.
Right, they have.
The non-union have not, and I presented to the commission. It was about $10,000 roughly for that, and it was denied by the commission.
By the majority.
Yes, ma'am.
So, we need to address that. So it's been 2 years.
It's
since
been
these-
longer than
It's
that.
been longer.
Yes, ma'am.
Could you please speak to the House?
It has been since Mr. Harris was here.
That our employees have gotten a raise.
That is correct, that the non-union.
The non-union employees.
Yes, ma'am.
We need to bring something back to.
Yeah, that has
Address
been,
that.
that has
It's not
been
okay.
one of the, like I said, one of the things that we did bring, right after the emergency manager left, right when the RTAB was, it was right after the RTAB was gone. There was a resolution that was presented for that, and it was turned down.
No, I support it. Okay,
Okay.
we need to bring that back.
All right. Commissioner Adams.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I want to thank Commissioner Henderson for bringing about such a great question, because when it comes to finances, within our charter, it states that the commission hires and oversees the finances. I mean, I know we have a city manager that takes care of day-to-day operations, but it is the manager's assistant that's involved in something financially that should be handled in the finance department. I don't know, I got a problem with that. But my question is, there was a certain amount that I saw that was budgeted for the mayor and commissioners. Was that $70-something $1,000? I mean, for the year's end, and we're,
For the year, there's $40,000 that is budgeted. There was a training increase, that's about $10,000 of that, and the rest is, commission stipends.
okay, I guess I was looking at the budget sheet itself of what was budgeted. So I'm wondering, why is what I'm looking at is saying something totally different? I know you wouldn't have a clue.
What?
I know you wouldn't have a clue, but
Commissioner Adams.
I'm listening.
What you're referring to is when the audit was being presented,
Mhm.
they said that it was $80,000. If you
It's
remember, it
actually 78.
was 78,000, right around $80,000. If you remember, the audit, the person who presented the audit said that because of the small amount of income tax administration that was allocated for the year, it was combined with the mayor and commissioners line item to get to that number.
Okay.
So that was a combination of two, not just the city commission's budget.
Of two, a combination of what?
The income tax administrative component as well as for 2018.
Okay. Through the chair, Finance Director Clark mentioned something about brownfield funds. What line item would that be in when those taxes are collected? Because there used to be brownfield's name on these documents when I used to see them. When funds were released, or they in turn had to return funds back to the city.
Yes, ma'am, that is in the property tax line. It's netted out oops, sorry, wrong way. It's one line. It's in the property tax line. So what we can do is something similar with this, as well as, what we
Okay.
do with the expense.
Okay, and it does say
This
ground,
expense
okay.
detail, we
Okay.
can do that.
Okay,
That's
okay,
very simple.
thank you.
Any other questions? Can we continue?
Yes.
We got one more, Dr. Tom.
Yes, now, Honorable Chair, in terms of looking at the bottom and other governments, and particularly Medic One, airports, Twin Cats, do we see, one, there was some discussion in terms of actually what was gonna be our commitment financially to Medic One, that there were some issues, and there was the issue of them trying to increase the money without providing what the money was for in services, and then complaints also by the residents. And then our decreased involvement or representation in the airport. Are those costs gonna decrease? Are they gonna stay the same? And since we're not really actively interacting or linked with them and where we can have decision-making capabilities, do you see a potential for that increasing?
That would be up to the Medic One board as to what they wanted to do. We have not accepted any cost increases, which we would have to do.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Adams.
I'm waiting. Next item, no, go
Okay,
ahead.
go ahead.
Okay, the next grouping is the major and local street fund activity. For this month, for the month of January, we did receive some additional funds for that, but our expenses have been, reasonably stable here. Obviously, we've got our crack ceiling that's in this maintenance side. And, you're going to see that, the winter maintenance, there was $13,000 of road salt that was applied in December. There was some additional road salt for the local roads. We typically split these up 40% to major streets, 60% to local. Again, the local, we're 59% through with the year, and our expenditures pretty much reflect that. The 71% is the Public Act 207 funds that we received in January and November, which have pretty much increased the amount of money that we've received into these two funds. Again, nothing too large there to talk about. Community development block grant, CDBG. Obviously our expenditures are up quite a bit over last year, which is, that's great to see. Our revenues are they're stable, and a big part of that was the government shutdown. We haven't really been able to push forward with our reimbursements, which is kind of, that's put a little crimp on our cash flow right now. But I know that's being addressed, and we should be moving forward pretty quickly here this month.
Question?
Yes, ma'am.
Through the chair, when it comes to our community block grant dollars and the things that money has the capability of taking care of, and we are pressing for time to spend a certain allotted amount of money, I'm hoping that we can take into consideration doing something for the children of this community. Is within any of this document that you're showing us, the school taxes and all that on here? School taxes that's been captured?
No, ma'am.
Okay. I have a question. If we have school taxes that we capture and release to different entities, if we become a public school no more, do we still have to capture those taxes? And what happens? Can somebody answer that?
I think the statement is if they become charter-based systems instead of a public school system, do you still have to collect those taxes to support a school district?
We act as a trustee, we collect the taxes as is directed by the different school entities, the Benton Harbor Community Schools, St. Joseph Schools, as well as the community college. We are
Right.
strictly an agents of collecting and
collecting, okay.
dispersing those
Okay,
funds.
but
They don't go through any.
Okay, but through the chair, I guess my question is for City Manager Watson to give me clarity, because we may be the agent, but we're also the agent of a public school that other schools pay into our school system too, outside entities. And we are the agent of collecting those dollars. If it's no longer a public school, what happens?
The millage rate is requested by the school board for us to collect on their behalf. If there is no school and there is no request, there is no
Or
collection.
no board?
If there is no request, there is no collection.
Okay.
And like I said, finance director said, we're only a steward, as we're just to collect it on behalf of the residents inside the city limits of Benton Harbor, which are part of the greater Benton Harbor area schools. So other entities, Sodus Township, Pipestone Township, Benton Township, are charged with the same task. They collect it and give it back to the school, remit back to them the millage rates that they agree to.
So until decisions are made otherwise?
Yep.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Madam Chair. Yep, let me back that up. Okay, maybe this, is your next slide gonna show what the expenditure was?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
And I just want to be clear on this last point. So therefore, if there's dissolution of the school and it becomes a charter-based system and not a school-based system, there's still going to be the process of collecting until something is officially said. Is that what I'm hearing, Honorable Chair? Through the chair?
If the school district were to dissolve, we are not charged with collecting that on behalf of the school.
Thank you.
Okay, here we are with the expenditures. Again, we repaid our Section 108 loan. Well, we expensed it in December, but dispersed it in January, so there's about another $80,000. So when you look at this number down here of $303,000, it's actually not an old due government shutdown right now. It's just it's a matter of processing. You'd have to add another $80,000 to that at least, probably more closer to 100. That where we are, or we're sitting on unreimbursed expenses right now. The utility fund just kind of clips along. I'm sorry.
Yes. So of the initial 400,000 that we are having the CVG to do what the Honorable Commissioner Mary Alice was saying, in terms of where is that balance of that money, because there was $400,000, there was a timeline from it. The idea was to hopefully use it for summer jobs or after school jobs. That wasn't done. So the status of that money and the criteria about paying back, I knew some of the money was directed towards the bus project area in terms of the streets. So where are we looking at with that particular money and in terms of the balance? And is there plans to utilize that money into the youth sector?
That would be a question for the CDBG director, who I don't believe is here right now.
So, but you
Who's
know,
reporting the money.
okay. So would you know? Okay, so that detail, what's in CBG, I thought you would also know.
Well, I understand where the money went, where it's being, where it's what the future plan is, is for that, over here, we do have our, where we plan to spend it. For instance, you were talking about youth, summer youth is about, $25,000. And if you look at, the public service recreation, there's about $23,000. There was a pretty substantial chunk of that, I would say, has gone to, to summer youth.
Okay. Are you saying this is planned? Because
These
there
are
were no
goals
summer
and-
jobs for youth, so are you saying this is what's planned for summer youth?
These categories here were taken right off of the CDBG plan that was approved by commission, I believe it was back in July. So this is where the planned spending is expected. This is where we stand to date.
And the
And these are our budget and then our actual.
excuse me, so I don't want you, the expenditure up to date of CBG and in terms of youth, are you saying that's what was expended?
This $23,000 under recreation, I would say that quite a bit of that would be summer youth. There may be some other, portions in here. I don't have the specific, I have the specific detail, but it would take a while to find it, so.
So we're saying, okay, out of 453,000, this rounded it off, 454,000, so 23,000 went to youth.
Through the Parks and Recreation program, yes.
And so 22 out of the 450, those funds are still going to be available?
Well, these funds are there are other items that are in here. There's this section here is called professional services, but this can mean a lot of different things.
Amen.
It can mean paving. It can mean a number of different projects that are focused. I mean, really the summer youth side, it's all part of the the plan that was presented to the public and approved by the commission. So this is the plan is approved and then they proceed with the plan. They execute the plan.
Okay, so now right from 14 to 17, we underfunded the youth and have an excess monies that's been dumped into a black box of professional service that can be tapped in the future to make sure that we have a greater expenditure in terms of youth summer jobs. Is that correct, Chair?
Our objective is to spend every dime of this.
An objective to spend, but I'm saying to, as the commissioner said earlier, to invest in the youth. We did not invest in the youth this summer, period, no discussion. So what I'm saying for the future,
We did,
we can do those.
we did request for a plan to be in place for the summer of 19.
Right, that's what I'm asking for, so, to make sure that, and there's money now, what's being said, Honorable Chairs, I guess, is stuck in professional services, and I'm asking this body, for you, Honorable Chair, to make sure, and Honorable Co-Chair, that we make sure that that is pulled out as a line item, so we know what the kids are gonna get, so that if we need to increase the amount, to increase the employment that we need to do, so it's not speculative and be subject, so that the commission be subject to what happened last year.
Yeah.
That's what I'm asking of the Honorable Chair.
Thanks, Dr. Time. Do that.
Did you want to say something?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Chair. Jerry Edwards, a lot of stuff. My question is, well, last summer I did work with some youth outside of Frankston Hall Park. My organization being BU. My question would be, how much of that last year went towards the payroll for the youth? Is that available, or is that up there, or is that just included in the total expenditures? Was it a separate item? Yeah.
I have the detail, but it would take a little while to pull together, but I can get that number.
Thank you.
Thank through the chair, that same line item there, and, we're still just as pressed 15 minutes ago when I was up here as we still are, at, spending a certain amount of money. We in trouble. No, our children are in trouble. And it's been 15 years. We got somebody to just put a training something down here next door to a liquor store. We in trouble. No, our children are in trouble, which means we in trouble too though. I am requesting that this committee put together a resolution for the full body's approval to put the funding on Manchester Bidwell Arts and Training Technology Center feasibility study. We're gonna need the resources that they have.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. Continue.
Not good.
Okay, this is, where we stand with utility services. Again, I have to continue to point out that we're 59% through the year. You'll see these numbers, what happens is at the end of the year, we do recognize through the accrual process, quite a bit of revenue for the, as the billing cycle works through. So we'll recognize more income toward the end of the year that will be collected after this year end. So the expenditures are pretty much on track for that. And then with regards to any large expenditures so far, nothing really jumps out for this for the month of January.
Through the chair, I'd like to ask about the customer service division. Has there been an increase from the billing servicer? I don't remember, but it looks like it has. Maybe we can get an answer.
I can look into that, Commissioner, and I'll get get everyone the information.
Okay.
I've got a list.
And the communications charges is IT and computers and
Phones, yes, ma'am.
all of those, for just that department?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thanks.
I have one question. I have one question around that. I think it was last month we talked about the service fees for online payments. Had those been decreased? Did we get that new service? What was the ending result of that? Because there was a $6 charge to pay online to find out if that was resolved.
Ma'am, nothing has been, Commissioner, nothing's been worked on with that at this point. There's quite a bit of coordination that goes on when you switch a service provider like that, because you have to make sure that it works with your system, ties in with your system. So we have to put out an RFP to have that type of, we have to find out, we do have some information from one servicer, but there just hasn't been, we collected the information, and now our next step really is to collect potential service providers, and then evaluate, what their charges would be and where we would spend the least amount of money. So we haven't made we haven't gone any further than to analyze the expense.
Okay, so I guess something will be coming in the next 2 months with the new service provider. $6 is too much to charge residents.
Well, $6 on $100, if I'm correct, City Manager? So it's not.
It was 100, if you charged like $101.01, yeah, the fee was $6.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's expensive.
I Okay.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah, just,
So we did ask
to have that look
Why
at,
look into
to look
that.
at other service
Services,
providers.
yeah.
So I thought that would be, okay, thank you.
got time.
Yes, Honorable Chair, I'm asking that, I also spoke back then and I researched about, asking about the branch manager of Chemical Bank, Linda Allen, doing a presentation about the service that they provide that's at a lesser cost to the city as well as to the resident. I'm asking if she could come and do a presentation if it would be so, your sole pleasure.
Reach out to her, you can reach out to Linda Allen on that, give a presentation with the services.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Again, one of the things that Mr. Clark said, we have to be mindful of, if you're gonna do something like that, you would have to open it up to other banks as well. So, Ms. Allen, and anyone else who would want to present to the commission for the commission to say whose services they would like. So if I said, so he said it best is that the best way to do is an RFP, then have them come and present their spiel to the commission, and then the recommendation be made for the commission to make a decision on.
So just to summarize, for the month of January, the city tax receipts were about 119,000. One of the commissioners asked, what kind of interest did we make on those funds for 2018? We made $3,900. But even just in the month of January, we made over $1,000 of interest. So those funds are they're generating interest. Regarding FDCVT reimbursements, last month I reported that there was about $515,000 that was on hold due to review by the state. We've got some very good news. We actually received the funds for the fire truck, as I reported, and they have reallocated the funds for us to receive reimbursement on the McAllister road project. So that's very positive. Again, reimbursements to HUD are probably closer to $400,000 at this point. And we received the second installment of Public Act 207 funds. And we spread those between the major and local streets, about $68,000. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
How much money we got? $2 and a nickel.
Next, we have discussion funds for my brother's Keeper Summit. Know that President Obama.
My favorite subject.
And Ben Harbor will be hosting this
Yes,
summer My Brother's Keeper
summit.
Summit. And Mr. Adams has been spearheading this. Can you speak on this?
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I think it's the 27th that marks the 5th year anniversary in the wake of Trayvon Martin's death that gave birth to My Brother's Keeper. And everybody now from communities all over the country are in Oakland, California. Chance the Rapper, a bunch of people. But I'm more excited because Benton Harbor has been chosen to host Michigan's summit this year. And the first summit we had, I came out of pocket, and I didn't mind because to me, our children matter.
Right.
And sometimes when you're doing things, it requires funding. And it's a time where we need our community to come together, and it's something that we need all hands on deck. And if anybody, I mean, it's all over the place. It's all over the internet. It's been all over the TV. I mean, just trying to help our children, making sure that our third graders can read by grade 3, from cradle to career, and above and beyond, into training, career training. There's a vast majority of mentoring that's going on. And there's a big justice piece that many different organizations and groups are working on, and I'm hoping more and more that the City of Benton Harbor nonprofit organizations and all other groups will come aboard. Because earlier this month, I mean, my mouth has just been open, because I've been on phone calls every month faithfully talking to all of these people, the CEO of My Brother's Keeper and others across the country, every month for the past 4 years, explaining and crying out about what my community needs. Am I the only one crying? Anybody else care? Because the money started rolling in. But we need grant writers. And I've been down here crying about we need those. But I got some women that's about to step up. Okay? And one thing about this isn't about Mary Alice. This isn't about Commissioner Adams. This isn't about beaming myself up, no photo ops, none of that. This is about our babies and their future. And I'm going to take this time to say it, and I'm not proud of it, but I've been to prison, and I left 6 children behind. And as a mother that had never been away from their children, you worry about your babies. And we have a lot of them that are experiencing the same thing. We have some whose parents are not incarcerated. They're somewhere sleeping on some relative's couch or floor that don't want them there. These funds address so many vast issues that our children are encountering today. And we need to get about our business, about the future that's going to have to rebuild America, because she studied crumbling while we're fighting over nickels and dimes when we know they're there. I was going to get the college to host our event this year, because we're anticipating on it being very large, bringing some big speakers in. And of course, Miss Angela Austin Waters of One Love Global is the spearhead that brought all of the communities in Michigan together, so she speaks one voice nationally for us all. The secretary called me, well actually she emailed me, and Angela suggested that we host this thing in the schools. And I agree. I totally agree, because it's about our children. But now, I had a meeting with the CEO tomorrow, and he had to cancel. But I've been rescheduled for a Monday meeting, but I'm going to also be requesting a meeting with the board members, because I'm going to need their approval to host it there. And with it being about our children, I don't see why not, but there was a problem when Jesse Jackson came through there. One of our black activists, one of our national black leaders that couldn't go into a predominantly black school and speak to our children, to give them a word of encouragement. We're supposed to be raising leaders to lead, not just in these seats, but across this nation, across the world. When will we start? This is a perfect opportunity, and what I'm asking for is that we would take a look and set aside some funding to feed our babies and our guests. And if one of them is less fortunate than the other, we may need to put 1 or 2 up in a hotel They may come in the night before. I'm asking that we find some funds to do that. We can find them to do everything else. Can we please put together a resolution and submit it to this body of elected officials and allow them to vote on it?
City manager, do we have funds in the, to say?
How much funds did you anticipate?
I don't know, I spent $1,300 altogether. I was fortunate enough to get 7 from the state of Michigan through the Michigan Service, the governor's office, with the, what do they call those students, the, oh, I forgot what they're called, but they come into communities and they help with keeping up with data and other tasks, making sure that the work is done through kind of like AmeriCorps, Vistas, yeah. I want enough in there to match some funds with the governor's office for a couple of Vistas, since I no longer have my scholars with the university.
I guess, you gotta.
Can we just 5, 10,000? Nothing is going to happen without the approval. Spending is not going to happen without our approval, and receipts have to be shown, every dime accounted for, and if nothing is spent, can it just stay in an account for my brother's keeper?
Up to, so you saying up to?
10,000. Our baby's they're worth more than that.
I know, I teach them every day, so I know.
Okay.
I work in the school, so you know I know.
I don't know, I'm thinking about it. Hold on. I forget his name. No, that's pretty much it, but just in case the school turns us down, I'm really looking at the college. And let me say this. My brother's keeper does not want to take over anybody's program. It wants to strengthen the nonprofit organizations and other groups in a community that's doing the work that Obama has set forth in his vision of his playbook. The Boys and Girls Club is using it, but do you ever hear him say MBK? I took the book up there to him and sit in the office for 2 hours. 2 hours. We'll get back with you, but I see you using my book. I'm just glad it's working because they're my babies.
Oh, no.
Right, because they know the issue. I have a
You got a
question.
figure now, you can say something, you know, you could.
Yeah, that's safe. I mean, I don't think it's gonna nowhere take all that, but I do know that, I think the college itself, I don't know, but we're gonna need some space. Yeah, and I want it to be nice, and invite, I mean, if the whole community show up, but I'm hoping and praying that we can do it in the school.
City manager, you wanna speak on this?
On,
The budget or something?
the question is, can we, is it eligible to be used, can we use public funds for that purpose? We have to make sure that that's an eligible, expenditure that we can do as a government. And then,
If I may, we accepted this, and we actually voted on it. Now, I know good and well if the mayor of Lansing can put $100,000 towards their local My Brother's Keep, I know we can come up with 10.
again, if it's a
Make it work.
public-private collaboration, and
Make it
that
work,
can
get it out
happen,
of CBG.
then that we can do. But like I said, we need to make sure that we don't run into any issues by state statute of what public funds can be used for.
Would you okay the
Look into that.
resolution to?
I can look into it, yes, sir.
I'm just gonna recap a little bit here. I think we need to recall that it was, back 5 years ago that the, President at the time, Barack Obama, put out a call for communities to come together. Benton Harbor chose to be a we are a chartered member of My Brother's Keeper. So the city itself chose to be a member of this organization. And with that, I've been fortunate to be a mentor for the program for the last 5 years. You remember Mary Donaldson and Juanita Henry and Mayor Marcus Muhammad and Mary Ellis were the 4 who took on that challenge. And Mary Ellis has been the spokesperson for this and carrying us through this for the last 4 years. I was honored enough to go to Flint and actually represent the city of Benton Harbor this past November. And it was miraculous what these young youths from Ypsilanti, from Saginaw, from Grand Rapids, from all over Michigan came in, and their knowledge and their brotherhood and their knowledge about what's going on in community, what's going on in government, what's going on just in the world was just phenomenal. There was breakout sessions, and these kids really came back with some powerful stuff. The municipal league was there, so that was part of the thing. It was about voter registration, it was about getting active in your community. And these young youths were just, they really floored me with the powerfulness of their commitment for change through My Brother's Keeper. I would say also they had their congressman there, they had the senator there, they had the mayor of Flint there, and it was a full day. I didn't even want to leave. It was really great, and I support 100% that we find money somewhere, because we are a chartered member for My Brother's Keeper, and as a spokesperson and a mentor for them, I've been doing my webinars for the last 4 or 5 years with the foundation. I've traveled to Chicago for Barack and things of that nature, and it would really be a shame that we don't find some monies to bring this to the city of Benton Harbor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Floyd. Mr.
Thank you. And I think there might be some misconception. I think the whole commission and a lot of people support our youth. As a teacher, I definitely support our youth. Next year, many of the state standards and stuff change where kids have to pass a reading test in order to even go to the next grade. So I think many of us, and I see a lot of things that happen with kids and kids not having homes, living with grandparents as primary caregivers. So I see a lot of that and really love our kids. And so I think one of the issues that we'll probably run up against is the public, as the manager spoke, we're using public dollars for to support private things. Even though we voted to support this, I think this would be a great thing to have a private, public-private collaboration with other organizations, even talking to Lake Michigan College about donating the venue, because they may do that if we ask. But I think there's also an appropriate way to ask versus demanding because we should do something. People do things because they want to do it, not because somebody demands that they do it because they think it's right. People want to do this because it is a great cause to support. And I don't think anybody's against that. But I think the issue we'll come up with is using public funds to support something like this. And so I think one of the options that we should use is contacting, like we spoke briefly about with this trash amnesty day that we got coming up, contacting local people to actually support this. Because I don't know if residents, and they vary, would want us to use their public dollars to support this event, even though it's for a great cause. Thanks.
Yes, just to basically show my support for My Brother's Keeper. I think this is how I met Commissioner Adams and also Michael Hoy for the My Brother's Keeper, and I'm not wrong, I think that was in April of 2014. But I would just like to show my support out of experience working in Chicago with youth of all colors, especially Cabrini Green and Robert Taylor. And out of my 40 years of working with youth, is one thing I found out, that youth have problems that adults forget about because we forget about our age when we were that age. A lot of children have problems that has nothing to do with poverty. It has nothing to do with jobs. A lot of it has to do with what are they willing to share that comes out of their home. They get confused. They get to be lack of trust with the adults. So basically what I'm saying is, besides the funds, out of experience, it would be a great push if each and every one of our elected officials would show up and get busy in it. The more adults that are shown for children's project, the better that you would get a percentage of them coming out and turning their lives around. We're talking about kids dying before the age of 5 by another child that's not even 18 yet. Why? They have nothing to do. I'm going to say this and I'm finished. Me and Michael Hoy was driving yesterday down Paw Paw. We picked up a youth that we've been working with since 2014. He got in the car, he's 20 now. And he told us that the problem that the youth have, some of them in Ben Harbor, is once they graduate, get 18, whether they go to school or get a job, after that, there's nothing here for them to get involved in. This young man has no problem with a job, his home is nice, I know his mother and everything, but when you get a certain age and you want to get out and do something, you got to have something for them to do. So I'm just urging you to find the money, not only the money, but talk to your other elected officials, your comrades, the other commissioners, the mayor, all of them. Get involved. Help push it. Because in some time or another, the seats that those names are on are going to change to one of those youth. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Even if that's a problem with the city funds, those CBG dollars, they come in here for stuff just like this, for the community. If we can do some type of amendment to those funds, I wonder how many of our kids would really show up if we had this event at the school. And it's an all-day event. Actually getting to know each other. Sharing the same space and actually talking about things that really matter in different sessions and stuff. And touching them so to where they feel free enough to, if there's a class over there, to say it's trauma. We have some children that have some elements that I don't care how much you volunteer or work in. We need all hands on deck. We definitely need all hands on deck. And I want to see a resolution go for everybody to vote. Because I'm just one voice, as each of us are. But I'd like to see a resolution come out of this committee to go to the full body for approval, even if we have to go into doing an amendment, as I saw so many do, especially the emergency managers, for skating rings, and the kids never got to enjoy the skates, but you didn't get a lot of flack about that. Make that make sense to me. Please make it make sense to me. Anyway, if you all know of some grant writers or anything, we need a lot, because the funds are so various that 2-3 people can't handle it. And I'm not going to overload or get our economic, but she works for the city of Ben Harbor, and I don't want that to be a problem. But I will catch her after hours for some stuff.
Thank
somebody got to
Chair,
ask questions later on, I'm telling you right now. Uh-oh.
On this subject, I do concur that something, in the absence of a city recreation program, which we haven't had for, some time,
Outside
I
is working
think
on.
that, we should, look at whatever way we need to do to get some type of funds to, support it. I think there need to be a part of the resolution that some type of committee be put together.
There is. I'm sorry, Honorable Chair, if I may. There's a board that will be making the decisions on yays and nays. Just like this, anybody is welcome to come and join that board.
This is in reference to how to get the
How,
funds.
how anything will be spent, or I'm just letting you know though that there is some order in the manner in which things will take place.
But on how to get the funds to make it right, through the city. Like I said, it could possibly be carried under the, through recreation, money's put into recreation fund and then somehow, but I think a committee should be put together to gather the funds to support whatever committee that they have for the My Brother's Keeper. It should be I'd rather see that type of money spent than somebody talking about, the jobs, and you see one shovel and 10 kids around there. At the end of the day, they don't know nothing, so I'd rather see them get some type of education or mentoring and stuff to where they can go out and get a real job, So, a lot of times we just throw money at something that's, don't last, Okay, they get, a few $100 and go buy some Jordans and it's gone, So, but if you teaching them something and mentoring them to keep them out of certain things, you could probably see a long-term effect of the money that you're spending. So, I would definitely support some type of, put together some type of committee here to figure out how we can use the money, if we have to use it run it through recreation or whatever. Or even ask for, donations too, but up to a certain amount. She's requesting that up to $10,000, that's really ain't a whole lot of money when it comes to, saving some youth,
Right.
Pro Tem Seats.
Good to have you.
Thank you. I do apologize for my not being here last night. My son had a basketball game, so I don't have to apologize for that. Because black fathers do matter. I do concur that something has to be done with our youth, but I got a problem with that, and I want you to hear me out. When you have people in the community who are getting hundreds of thousands of dollars that connected with our youth, our young people, you got a big building right down the street where Al Pashoka resigned from office and are now trying to build another building down here to get them to do basketball and other kind of projects needed that cost money. I do concur with Brother Michael Hoy with the Downtown Historical Preservation Society, who's the president of, that there's money that can be made and garnered, but I would suggest that we pull it from another way. Maybe we take it from the medical marijuana applications that might have failed. There was a lot of people that put money out there for the medical marijuana deal with the application with the $5,000, that money, we don't know where it's going.
That'll work.
We need to make sure that we put a tab on that kind of money, that money don't drift away. And I'm not saying anybody's taking anything, I never would suggest that. Or maybe we should concentrate on different avenues that garner money, that we can place the miscellaneous towards that way. But to make it a line item, every organization that wants to get anything done has fundraisers. Maybe we can help partner with them with a fundraiser. And say, Joe Bob, when y'all come to town, I think it's time for y'all to get another free concert coming up. Is it this year or next year? Will y'all get Rick James or somebody to come down? No, Rick James dead. James Brown, or somebody who ain't dead. You know, I gotta look at somebody from that age group, because they bring all the old guys here, and they got to wheel them up there and get them some oxygen when they get done singing. But anyway, y'all get a free concert coming up. But the truth is, even though we might be laughing, the truth is that with the Boys and Girls Club, they have tremendous fundraisers that raise multi-million dollars for that Boys and Girls Club. Maybe we need to put our need in front and say, if you want to pop a hole, we only want $50,000 and or whatever, and they're willing to do it, but we have to come as a collective group. But what I found out is every time they come in town, they put their money where they want to put it and not where it needs to go. So I know we got all kind of new societies that's coming up and going up, and people were presidents of all these other kind of historical, Michael Hood, president of 10 different organizations, which I'm grateful of him. And then he just said that him and the brother had a car, they picked up somebody, and they took them where they needed to go. And I appreciate that. I would have gave them some gas money for them to get where they need to go. But it's time for everybody who has organization to put their money where their mouth is. If they want to help the children, let's help them. But it takes money. And right now, the city biggest problem ain't just these kids. It's these kids need safe routes to school. When you don't have sidewalks, when you gotta drive down the street in a dollar ride busting tires and gotta get towed away because you have potholes. So if you wanna take some money, we got extra money, and then maybe we need to trim some fat. Maybe we need to look at some ways that we can trim some money to put out there. And as you said, you got 10 people with one shovel. That's a problem. We don't need 10 people with one shovel. We need one person with some asphalt, one person with a roller, and one person with some tack. And let's get some of these manholes messed up. So I do appreciate y'all taking time to hear us, but I don't want us to well, I fed a whole lot of them and put them in hotels too when it was 30 below. I put my money where my mouth is. I don't play no game. It's needed and necessary. But when you got schools that get money, see, the meeting don't need to be held here. The meeting need to be held down the street. They're getting more money for young people than we're getting. Did y'all hear what I said? What's that building down there called? The City Commissioner Edward Ice? Connections is getting more money for your kids than we're getting in this community. Is that right? They get money for training, development, all kinds of things. Why don't we go down there and strike, boycott, raise hell? We ain't gonna do that. They're utilizing your statistics to raise money off the backs of your children and unemployment and poverty. And we are not saying nothing. I'm not against my brother's keeper. I'm for it. But my brother's keeper is My brother's keeper's getting money too. Worldwide, my brother's keeper's getting money. It's getting money. Why don't we get some money from all the entities that contract? Make them pay some money, give money back. We talked about Main Street Market giving money back to parks. We got other contracts that's out there, why don't we make them give money back? Everybody give a little portion. So, why don't we get the trash company to give some money back? I appreciate y'all taking my time, take time out to hear what I got to say. But I cannot support a resolution designating money, but I can support a resolution designating support.
I think that's, I think the idea was to get a committee together to get the funds from whoever can get funds.
Well, I just heard there was already a committee together.
No, I was a committee for my brother's keeper. I'm talking about the committee from the city to try to come up with ways to get the funds. You made one good point. You some of them,
Weed money, cause they smoking that.
and the one that, you know, like you said, the applications that didn't make it, but you still kept the money, so.
They gonna take
Yeah.
like a dang.
Why don't we get that money?
And some of that, I mean, it's, that or any other way, you know, the thing is, let's do something. You know?
Yeah, oh, through the chair, can we find out how much money we did get in application money for the, 100,000 for, you got over 100,000 for the marijuana? And how many out of that money, how much how many people won? Out of the 100,000, I know some people failed.
Somebody know more than me with that.
So far, it's the 4 that have been the growers are in the process of fixing some deficiencies in the application to be submitted back in. And you still have the other 17, so you've got the whole totality of 21 total people who have
But we got
applied.
their money.
So we got 110,000 there. 21 times 5, right?
105.
105,000, I'm sorry, you know, I couldn't math. 105,000, so all of those been approved out of the 105,000?
No.
No.
So the ones that been denied, can we allocate that money?
That the state law reads that money has to go for the process, for the application review and processing of those applications. That has to be specifically earmarked.
Will it cost that much money to review? I thought we came up with that fee though.
You did.
But every dime has to go through the check?
You have to justify the $5,000 fee by saying that this is what it went for the processing of application review.
What if you don't use all of it? Where'd it go?
I should have went down there and hammered up the armory.
You would have,
Stabbing marshals paid.
it's actually gonna be more than the 5. But again, if you don't, it would then stay in the general fund.
So who reviews the application through the chair?
You?
The ordinance states that the applications are reviewed through a series of presentations to various staff members. So the police department, fire department, zoning administrator, finance director, treasurer, review specific parts of the applications.
And then?
To then give, that information is then, once they're done, if they pass the muster, they then are given to the planning commission, who then reviews them and then makes a recommendation to the city commission who has the final approval.
Last question, do we have a zoning administrator?
Yes.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Thank you, Commissioner at Large, Ron Chamberlain, and to the clerk, and to everybody.
Thank you for coming, Mayor Seach.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to say that usually people spend their money where their priorities are.
For what?
And we have supported by resolution my brother's keeper. And so I'm hearing that it might be possible to use public money but it doesn't sound like it to me. And if we do create a subcommittee, to go out and seek funds. But I think that if you look at the regs for community block grant money, might be some eligibility there. We can take our money and spend it to our priorities. If we don't, it will go to somebody else's priorities. So here we are, and we need to ask staff to find that money. If that's what we really want to do. And that will take the full body to ask. So there is a resolution. Ask them to find the money. Go to the regs. Go to Abermarch. Go to Plant Moran. Go to Al Pachoka. And ask them. Just a letter. Compose a letter and ask them to help. But if we don't ask staff to do it as a body, it's not likely to be done.
Honorable Chair, that's the type of letter that I would like to see come out of Planning and Economic Development to go to the governor of the state of Michigan to stop Al Pachoka and all that money he got for training, because it should be used in our schools. Now that's a recommendation for Honorable Chair of Economic Development. Let me just share this tad bit of information, because besides this, my home life and all of the committees and other outside meetings that I attended, I spent 4 hours every Monday morning for a whole year with the scholars that I had, planning and gathering data for my brother's keeper, with Angela and other scholars from all over Michigan on teleconference. The time came when funding started coming through, and the request was, well, Angela has, One Love Global has a CPA, a certified accountant. So you write these grants for us and you take care of the paperwork, because I'm not skilled to be doing all of that. That's why I'm sitting here today. But I couldn't even get an okay from the mayor that I thought was really on board with all this. I didn't realize that I was getting another Hightower. I hate emailing people. I have the same problem with the city manager. If I just went through my emails and get the unanswered ones about some things that were not only important to me, but to the community as a whole. I don't come down here asking for nothing personal. I'm trying to do something for our children. And I can't believe that I just heard one of the commissioners say something when Abermarch went down there and we paid them, what, almost $10,000 to have board up our biggest asset. But you talk against the children. This is about feeding our kids at an event in their school. And whatever funds are not used, let them sit there and be utilized for another event or function for our babies. Just in case you missed all of that, since you were so late getting there.
I sure appreciate you, Commissioner.
You know I appreciate you.
You can wrap that up.
No, I got one more. This is pertinent to this. So my brother's keeper will be having a meeting on Tuesday, the 26th, up at Peace Temple. I'd like to come join us. We'll be gathering together, which is, it's 975 Pipestone. 275. And what time?
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock. So please come join us. You'll see all the things that we're talking about right there, and maybe we can collaborate together and extend this conversation out a little bit more. Thank you. Tuesday, the 26th.
What is the event?
275 Pipestone.
Michael, when is the event supposed to be?
We are scheduled for late.
No, the
Well-
summit.
I'm sorry.
Come up and tell us
Yeah.
about the event.
The event was scheduled for, November the 2nd.
Right.
But when the other members decided that they wanted to do it in the school, which makes more sense. So we have greater access to more children, more of our youth. To do it in the school would fall on that Friday, which would be November the 1st. Praying for good weather for people to be in Michigan, driving down 94.
But it's not doing summer months.
No, we went to Detroit year before last.
Yep.
Yeah, it was Hispanic elite. I mean, these kids had robotics and
It
oh
was great.
we have some creative children,
Yeah.
man.
Well, I know the last summer I went to, we had it here in
Hilton.
Hilton.
Yeah, yeah.
Very nice.
Yes.
You know, the young.
Yes.
people.
And we want everybody to be
The
involved,
speakers.
everybody, the community to come together as a whole.
Be bigger.
This ain't no Mary Alice thing. Do I need to say that again?
Just think it'd be
Say it
a
one
little
more time,
nicer.
Commissioner.
This is not a Mary Alice thing,
Thank you.
nor a Commissioner Adams thing. This is a my brother's keeper thing,
All
as
right.
well as my sister's.
All right. Move
Oh,
forward. Let's move forward.
No, I need to say something.
Let's move forward.
No, if we gonna pay for it, don't have it in the township.
It's gonna be in our school.
Keep it in the city.
Don't have it at the Hilton if we've been Harbor gonna pay for it. We need to have it in the city. I mean, does that make sense to y'all?
If we finish with our armor.
If we don't need to get a Hilton no money and they paying taxes to the township. We need to have it in Ben Harbor in the city. If we're gonna put any money to it, we need to get something back out of it. You know, and I would ask, Mr. Michael Hood to ask his dear friend Louis Sadas, they got money. They got money. He brought here to speak to us. He couldn't get the money out of her. Why don't he get some grant money out of her? And then we put some money from the state or the federal to my brother's keep. Wouldn't that be a blessing?
I'll put that meeting together for you.
I appreciate it. Thank y'all.
Thank you again, Pro Tem Seats. Good to see you. Okay, next on the agenda, we have discussion, Third Coast Surf Shop Agreement. We have
Okay.
Third Coast. Yeah,
Just quickly, Mr. Ryan has contacted the city. His initial agreement has expired, and he wants to renew it. And he's basically providing information for you regarding the Third Coast kayak, surf shop kayak rentals. So I just wanted to introduce him and then he can tell you, or you can ask any questions you have of him.
Yes, thank you. My name is Ryan Gerard. This is my wife Erin. We own Third Coast Surf Shop. We've been in business since 2005. We have retail stores in St. Joseph and New Buffalo. We also had the retail store right down the street, Third Coast Paddling on 241 East Main Street. We closed that due to the fact that we have 2 kids and it was a little too much for us. But we've been involved with the city of Benton Harbor since 2013. Our first contract was 5 years. It was initially signed by Tony Saunders. And I've provided that to the commissioners. I've also provided a breakdown of the commission that we paid the city. In those, actually, it's 5 years. I apologize that 2014 wasn't on there. My bookkeeper put this together, and I'm honestly not sure what happened to that. But we did pay the city for 2014 as well. So in those 5 years, based on our contract, which was 8% of gross sales or a minimum of $5,000 per summer, We've paid $20,000 in revenue into the city. So we are proud of that. We're also proud of the fact that we provide recreational opportunities here. We do in St. Joseph and New Buffalo as well. And we do this, for those of you who aren't familiar with our operation, we've been operating out of the Graham Avenue boat launch, as well as Gene Clark Beach. And it's pretty simple. We rent kayaks and paddle boards. So we like to think that it's a fun thing that people look forward to. We like to think that it brings people to the city and to the area. And it gives locals and visitors alike something to do, something that's healthy, getting outside. And on top of that, in accordance with our contract with the city, we do pay a percentage of that sales revenue into the city. So we're here today simply to seek the commission's approval to, I think, then have it passed on to the city commission. Is that right?
Yes, the committee would have to make a recommendation to the city commission to extend the contract, or actually redo the contract, have it redone, and then go forward from there.
I want to make sure all the commissioners get this.
Certainly.
And look this over, I'm sure. It says 2018.
I actually just have 2 copies with me, but I can certainly give you copies.
2018 you didn't open?
We did, and that's reflected here. So that was our 5th year.
Oh, okay.
And we're hoping to get a similar contract, a 5-year contract. We would prefer to have an option to renew at the end of the 5 years, because we are committed in this area, and we want to be here. We want to be involved.
Do you employ any local young teenagers? Or?
We do. Most of our employees, in the height of the summer season, between our retail stores and our rental sites, we employ about roughly 24 people. So many of those are local high school and college students.
From the city of Ben Harbor here?
I can't say for certain.
Okay.
But we're happy to. We, of course, open up applications to everybody. So if there are ways that we can get more involved with the city, we're happy to do that. We've talked about working with the Boys and Girls Club, maybe doing some free paddling sessions. So we're open to suggestions from the city of Ben Harbor.
So, you see your location here, you closed down?
The retail store.
Retail store.
Yeah.
But you have 2 other retail stores?
We do, yes.
So in Ben Harbor, you basically would be, I don't know how that works, Mr. Manager, maybe answer. You would be
Talking to the mic, please.
you would be can you hear me?
Yeah.
Pull your hat up a little bit. How would that work as far as income tax purposes? Is the money that's made
In the city,
in the city?
you have to pay income tax on that.
Okay.
Yes.
That's what I was, okay.
And, again, $20,000 that we've generated in commission that we've given to the city, maybe that could be used for something like the summit that's being proposed. That's just an idea. That's not my decision to pay it, of course. But I think the point is that I like to believe that we're giving to the local community in multiple ways.
Have you had any issues, working in the city as far as at the locations and sites that you?
We haven't. We take care of the sites. It's something that I take pride in, is a nice representation of our business. We're a mom and pop operation. We provide a portable potty that we pay for at Graham Avenue, which we keep open for anybody to use. But no, we haven't had any issues at all.
So that Graham Avenue is not just exclusive, if anybody else needed to get off from there for some other purposes?
It's a public lawn.
Right.
So, yeah, we take a small sliver. We don't even actually take up any portion of the launch itself. We have our container there to store the equipment in, which we keep locked up when not in use. But we're very sensitive to the fact that it is a public launch. So for us, if there were problems, that it doesn't reflect well on us, and obviously that's not something we want.
All right. Commissioner
Thank you. And thank you for choosing Benton Harbor. Beautiful little diamond in the rough. Two things. We had a gentleman that came in here that actually attacked us because he thought that it being a public place and space where they have access to fish or whatever, do their own personal kayaking, that they should be able to use the bathroom, and the porta potty was locked. And I think the gentleman mentioned that he had some words with the gentleman down there, and but you pay for it. So, you work it out however you want to, but I can't sit here and talk about my brother's keeper and not mention, all of us, we need to work out something to get along with each other. If you have to have a personal discussion with those that come down, well, help me pay for this thing, you know what I'm saying? I have to pay somebody to come in and clean it up, or I don't know, but maybe the city need to consider something else that I brought up economically, including this park right here. Public bathrooms like the city of, start with an H.
Holland?
Holland. Yeah, and create some jobs for somebody to go in there. And as we continue to build and tax dollars keep coming in, we should be able to do that and hire some people and put them to work to clean these bathrooms, but that would be a spot to put a bathroom as well. My second concern is the big, it's like a train container that you have sitting there, about the pavement that it sits on. When that is damaged, I'm sure, because weight will do that, and especially if do you move it every year,
No,
or
it
it just
stays
sits?
in place, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it's on its own foundation,
It's sitting on the pavement.
on the
Yeah,
pavement.
yeah.
So I don't know what's in the contract, but who's responsible for because it could end up costing us more than 20,000 to, I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there because it just makes good business sense to me to ask those type of questions.
See,
There was something else. I think I got stuck on the $20,000 that he was talking about donating. Oh, when you mentioned donation, I went back to my brother's keeper and thought about the $300,000 that was donated. Ain't no change or juice from that somewhere?
city manager with the.
Got a swimming pool we can't
City
use.
manager write this contract, you have to rewrite it or just?
We'd have to do some modifications to it, yeah.
I just had a question about the trailer. There was some complaints about where it sit and people being able to access the lake. I just wanted to, I had a few questions about that. Is there another spot that it could sit near, because I actually kayak, and so, in that same area, and I walk those trails there. And so I know it sits kind of far out. Is there another location that's close to the water that it could sit besides in that area? Because I think there's a pathway there that is close to that it blocks. So just the location of the trailer, I feel like is an issue. We've gotten complaints from residents about that particular trailer sitting there.
We're open to discussing that, certainly. It actually doesn't block the entrance to the trail right now. It's the corner is close to the start of the entrance. There's also a trash can that sits right there. But I mean, hopefully I've made clear, we're certainly open to working with the city in whatever way that we need to.
So on the other side where the parking area is, there's like, I think it's just grassy and there's some land there, and it's not the concrete, but that, on the other side of that parking lot, there's a parking lot that's there, then there's, I think there's some grassy area that faces, it would be west or northwest, southwest, whatever it would be, facing that way toward the golf course. I'm sorry, would that be, a better location for that trailer than where it sits? That's my only concern.
I think the reason we originally chose that location is because it sits in front of a row of trees. And the south end of the trailer is about, I would say roughly 10 to 15 feet north of the launch area, so it certainly doesn't block the launch at all. And then the north end of the trailer, as I said, doesn't block the trailhead. So both ends are still accessible. And you know, the other thing is that part of the business is hauling the equipment from the trailer to the water to help our customers get into the water. So when I initially approached the city in 2013 with this idea, that was the location that I thought made the most sense. We've been doing this in New Buffalo since 2005, 2 separate sites. So in my experience, I felt like that was the best place, but as I said, if there are suggestions otherwise, I'm open to those.
The octopus ain't got nobody yet, huh?
Permission, I mean,
Oh, not yet, not yet. Ryan, thank you for coming down here tonight. These part of this conversation, and thank you for being here, because there needs to be some clarification on some of the things that I think some of the citizens in the community they're not aware of. One, do you rent or do you house any of your kayaks at Gene Clark Park?
We do, yeah, that's part of the contract.
Okay, great. Do you store any of your belongings at Gene Clark Park?
We do. Yeah.
Okay, so the contract actually ended when?
2018, sorry, 2018.
So in like what, the end of summer or?
Sorry, I have to refresh my memory. April 30th, 2018.
So since April of 2018, it's been sitting there in storage in city property, right?
It has been.
Okay, very good. So that was just one thing that there was a conversation that came up a while ago. Okay. It did.
And I've been trying to make this happen for over a year.
The city manager was also trying to get this forward to so this doesn't come up on Monday when it goes for a resolution, so we can get it cleared up now.
Right.
Okay, great.
If it were my choice, this would have been done a year and a half ago, and it could have just been a simple renewal process.
Right.
I know there's a lot going on, and this isn't exactly the top priority in the city.
So if the resolution was not to be permitted for you to go for another 1 year or 5 years or whatever for the contract, then you would have to move your belongings and you have to move that container, you have to find a new home, right?
That's right.
And that's not what we want to see.
Not
Right,
what this-
great. So is there also a summer end of bash that you have at the end of the year?
We do. So
Okay.
we, for 5 years now, this will be our 6th year in a row, we hold an event at Jaycock Beach. that we pay to lease the pavilion for.
Great, that's what needs to be said. You do lease the facility.
Oh, yeah, we do it just like a wedding group or anybody else.
Right.
Um,
So it's not at the end of the year, so at the end of September past Labor Day, or it's free for everybody else to go down there and have
It's
events?
free, we don't charge anything.
No, but, I mean, usually after Labor Day, the city does not actually go ahead and charge to have a wedding or a venue down there, as a fee.
That's not true though.
Okay.
It's changed.
Who's saying that?
It has.
Yeah, so let's just have clear, so, I don't know, I need to redirect that question to the chair, or, yeah, we just wanna make sure that you are paying for the fees that you are doing your back.
I can tell you that
Right.
for 5 straight years, we've paid to hold our event.
That is true.
At Gene Park Beach.
That is correct.
It's called the Great Lakes Surf Luau.
Right.
Everyone's invited.
I've
It's
been to
open
one.
to the public, everybody that attends pays to park.
Perfect.
And I believe in 2018, the fee, because Third Coast Surf Shop is a non-resident.
Right.
So we pay the non-resident fee, which
I
I
got
believe
that.
was $800.
Right.
We're happy to do that though.
I know.
It's a beautiful beach and it's perfect for the event.
Right, so we just wanted to have this open conversation, so none of this comes up on Monday. Thank you again.
Thank you. City Manager, you make sure everybody get one of these?
Yes, sir.
Thank
Yes,
you. Next,
Thank you, Attorney Hoy, for that. It will be coming up Monday. Attorney Randy Hoy. To the chair, and I need to say this, and I have 3 concerns. As a voting member of this board, I need to know why. I heard for the sake of children, and we all do have children, I understand that process, that the Benton Harbor location was closed for resale. Then with St. Joe, I heard about the 2 locations in New Buffalo. But if you have a retail shop in St. Joe, do you kayak in St. Joe? It seemed to me that wherever you kayak, that's when you have your retail shop. And also, I just want to clarify this, because I don't want nobody thinking that after a certain point, if you have weddings and parties down at Gene Clark Park, you're not going to be in charge. If that is happening, then I think somebody needs to notify the city. And I need clarity on that issue, because if a certain time of year there's no charging for weddings, I mean, I ain't talking about when it's snowing outside, but if somebody's not being charged for weddings, for parties, and they're using the pavilion or the venue, then that's a problem. Other thing I want to say is, if they've been having this party out here for that many years, this luau, and I would ask that the commission, for the breakdown, to see their name on that list that they're paying. How much did you say you were paying every year, sir, to do that?
800 in 2018.
They're paying, you only pay 1 year?
No, we paid each year.
So $800 a year just to do that luau?
Yeah, it's 4 hours.
$800 a year just to do that luau. I want to see that, because that's, I've never, through the city manager or through the chair, I never seen that exorbitant amount of money come. What time of year is that, sir?
This was in September.
September, that money from a luau, $800 from rental of Gene Clark Park comes to, who do you pay that to?
West Park. The city.
The city.
So it's actually 2 payments.
Just 2 payments?
Yeah, so there's deadlines.
Can we have them be quiet for this, for the, thank you, sir. Now go ahead and say what you were saying.
So if we go through the process with the city, just like anybody else is supposed to rent the pavilion. So I know that there's 2 payments that we made. It totals, I believe it's $800 for 4 hours as non-residents, because we're based in St. Joseph. And I forget exactly when those payments are due. It's like July 31st is the first cutoff, and then 2 weeks before the event is the second or something like that. That's how we got it.
Thank you. What is that payment, where do you pay that payment at? Do you pay it down,
We mail it to the city.
you mail it to the city, where?
City of Benton Harbor.
The inspection department?
It comes to the finance department where the money is then, is receipted and he gets a receipt and all the documentation is given and everything at that point.
Does that show up somehow, city manager, on our accounts receivable?
Give it to him.
It's in the fees, in the revenue that Director Clark talked about earlier.
So that money goes to the police department?
It goes to the general fund.
So that money goes to the general fund?
Correct.
So the money they pay for the rental,
Goes to the general fund.
what about the parking?
That goes to the general fund. So, so the money that's paid for parking at Gene Clark Park goes to the general fund. The money that's paid for rental of Gene Clark Park goes to the general fund.
Well, my question becomes then, if we see the money for the Steelhead Triathlon, and we see the money for all the other events, the Blues Fest and all that, I've never seen the money, this 800, and I'm not saying nobody's doing nothing crooked, please don't believe that. But I'm saying I've never seen this as a line item come from the surf shop, Third Coast Surf Shop for the luau at the end of the year. But I would ask, also just the consideration of bringing back retail back to Benton Harbor if it would be possible. I know maybe the other areas might be a little bit more lucrative, but if we're giving the most, I think that we should get the most, and maybe just a consideration. I'm not forcing your hand because I understand the sake of children, but I would ask through the chair that we do find out how much has been really paid to the city and where is that actually, and nobody's saying anybody took some money, but I want to see it. But then I also want to see, was it because of the income tax, city income tax that y'all left, or was it just strictly because of that?
No, and I'd be happy to talk to you guys about, thank you, about how we opened our paddling store in Benton Harbor and why we closed it. Our first store is in New Buffalo. It's a surf shop, so we don't sell kayaks or anything like that. It's more of a summer-oriented business where we sell apparel and footwear, and we actually surf on Lake Michigan, if you can believe that, year-round. So we're one of the crazy people that you see out in the winter surfing. That's how I got started in this retail business. So our first store we opened in New Buffalo in 2005. Second store we opened in downtown St. Joe in 2010. We had been doing the kayak rentals since 2005. So we started getting into this type of service where we would negotiate contracts with the different entities, City of New Buffalo, City of Benton Harbor, the DNR, Michigan State DNR. And then we were approached in October of 2016, I believe, by the guys who owned Yaks, which was the kayak store that was in that building for 3 years. They approached us out of the blue in October of 2016, I believe it was, basically saying that they wanted to get out of it, and would we be interested in buying their business, and we did. We bought the business from them. We bought the building from the owner, who was a different person, and we were really excited about it. You know, for us it made sense because we were already in retail, and the rental business had been steadily growing. So I thought it was a natural extension, if you will, to take the rental to the retail. That building's a mile from the Graham Avenue launch, from the Gene Clark Beach. So my thought when they approached us with this offer was that it made sense for our business. So we did. We bought the building, we bought the business, and we opened for 2 years. It was okay. Our sales grew about 30% from the first to the second year. But there were some challenges. It's a very seasonal business, obviously, a kayak store in Michigan. There was that, and then there was the stress that came along with opening a third store. You know, for me, I mentioned our 2 young boys, you know, I was having to work longer, I think, than I wanted to, and just take on more than I was ready for at the time. And that's when I made the decision after the second season that for the sake of our family and our business, it just made sense to close that store and sell the building. So we did. We sold the building in June of last year, and time to move on. But I'm hoping that this new contract with the city of Benton Harbor is something that we can also move on with as well, because I think it's a win-win for everybody.
All right, the location of the container, is there any way we can put that in a less visual place that would not impede or the view? Maybe we can put it in the back half where you got the homeowners on that other side right there. Maybe we can put it like off in the cut to the back side, or move it over instead of being right where it's at right now. I understand the logistics is important with getting it from point A to point B to make it more feasible for your clients. But is there a place that we can put that at that will be less visual, you know, in the view of that luxurious jewel that we have down there, which is called Gene Clark Park?
Well, just to be clear, at Gene Clark, we don't have any kind of container on site.
Graham, I'm sorry, Graham, I apologize, Graham Avenue. Yeah. Is there any way we can move that to a less visual place? Maybe we can bump it on the back of the building, or somewhere where it's less visual.
Again, I'm open to.
Or maybe we can put it down in Public Works. You know? Work on it.
Thank you. Just make sure everybody gets one.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Through the chair, just very quickly, if I may, give me too much time, I get thinking. That was a really nice spot. And I'm not gonna try to entice you to move back there, because I would like to put something there, because it was a perfect spot for surfboards to be.
Yeah.
What are they made of? Do you make them?
So that store, we only sold kayaks and paddle boards.
Do you make them?
We don't.
Okay.
No.
Okay, I was just going somewhere else, because I'd like to see you in Economic Development Committee to see if we can do something to try to make some, to create some jobs. Our own factory or something. I mean, I'm just a thinker. I mean, we live by the water. We need to be thinking about how to create some jobs.
And, you know, that's why I think this kind of recreational.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chair. Now, everybody knows that Gene Clark Park is my baby. So, when I heard about this, I didn't hear about it because Tony Saunders didn't tell us about it. But I noticed that they were there. And when I walked up to the gentleman and asked him what was they doing there, and he told me, then I started asking other questions from staff. And when I finally got it, it was close to it expiring. So I didn't say anything. I said, well, we'll just wait until it's time to renew. But I'm looking at the contract. And first I'll say one thing, that Gene Clark Park has a stipulation about signs. That's a no-no. Our lease agreement, our Gene Clark Park says no signs. So that was going on. I told staff that, but nobody wanted to address it. So now it's time to address it. And it comes to that trailer, it has done damage to the asphalt over the years. So it might be something we can do about it. I don't know if it was being moved or what was being moved or whatever was being moved was breaking it down. So I can't say about that. But
My question that I've never been able to get answered was there permits? And I heard him say he did pay sales tax on his event. Did I understand that right?
Well, for the event that we hold once a year, which is separate from this contract, we pay the city fee, the rental fee for the pavilion.
You pay the rental fee, but you don't get a permit to sell, or you don't, and the park is closed when you have this event?
No, it's during open hours.
Officially, the park closed when?
The park got extended to October 31st via a resolution by the commission.
That's last year?
Yep.
Or it starts this year?
Prior to that, it was October 1st.
Okay.
And our events in September.
So, you don't get permits? You don't go to City Hall and get permits to sell or?
Well, just to be clear, at that event, we don't sell anything. The rentals is a separate entity. We aren't renting during that event. The event is simply a celebration of our community.
You don't have vendors out, different vendors out with different merchandise?
But, sorry, let me correct myself. We sell a T-shirt for the event. And no, we don't have any kind of, I don't know if we need one, an outside permit to do that.
Well, I'm just wondering because I would like to see every event that comes to Gene Clark Park, they stop down to our inspections and get the necessary permits and pay for them. They should not be able to come and do anything they want without giving us the respect to pay for it. And if it doesn't come out of this committee, it hasn't happened in years. And I've been saying it over and over and over. That's more generated money for us to put in our general fund to do the little things that we need to be done. So,
if I may, we go through the city's process, you know, when we.
I understand.
The pavilion.
You don't know, you don't know. And
Right.
it's our fault. It is our fault because we allowed these people to come in and not pay us.
And to be clear, as a business, if that was a fee that.
I know you would do it. I know.
Yeah.
But you hear me, commissioners? Nobody pays.
I'm not sure if the city has.
Yes, we do.
Do you, like a vendor fee?
We do have a vendor fee. I've seen events out there that just make thousands and thousands of dollars and we get nothing. And that has to stop. You really should look at some of these terms. I mean, Tony was just, he was just happy. If we extend it out for 5 years, and stopping the operation, and each year can be altered depending on weather. But
That's simply to say that we would love to be open from May 1st through October 31st, but unfortunately, May 1st
the weather,
might be
yeah,
50 degrees.
I got you. This is Michigan. What I saw when I went to Gene Clark Park was when the shed was open. It was just in disarray. And I didn't see, because what I was looking for a place to put our Gene Clark Park pillar, just to hold it. But when I found out that they were there, well, that ended that. But
we do share that space,
With Harbor Shores,
right,
they don't pay for it,
that we do.
and it is in a mess. I don't know if it's Harbor Shores mess or Third Pope's mess, but it is a mess in there, all times, every time they raise the door. I got pictures to show it, cause I went out and took pictures to say, this is a mess.
Well, that reflects poorly on us, that's for sure.
Well,
So,
it might be Harbor Shores, cause they're a mess, anyway. So, but whoever it is, it's a mess.
That's something we can easily take care of. It's just a matter of stacking kayaks in the correct way and that type of thing. And if I may, the current the now expired contract includes one non-permanent 4x8 foot sign at the front entrance of G-Clock Park. That never happened. So the only signage that we've used in the park is maybe 3 to 4 strategically placed real estate style signs that just stick into the sand. And we actually started retrieving those at the end of the day and then putting them back out in the mornings because we found they were getting lost or stolen. But, you know, again, this was just what we came up with Tony Saunders in 2013. We're perfectly willing to work with the city however we need to make it better for everybody.
Send it to economic development.
And,
City manager,
they also require us to give them 4 beach passes per year.
For our staff.
For your staff, and do the participants, their parents and guardians and kids pay as they come in? Or do they get a pass to come in free?
No, they pay.
You pay.
Are the people that rent from us have paid to park in the park?
Okay. All right. Well, sorry, Gene Clark Park says no signs, so I don't know what we can do. But it sounds like a good idea that if you put them down and pick them back up, they might work. But that depends on what the agreement says for Gene Clark Park.
Thank you, Mr. Henry. Right. Is it?
One more thing I'd like to say, in the 5 years that we were at G-Clock Park, there was a restaurant one year, then there was not a restaurant the next year. It seemed to be kind of hit and miss, and obviously for us, as a business being located right next to the concession stand, we would love to see more consistency there. You know, even in the maybe 2 out of those 5 years that there was a concession there, in the concession stand, they didn't keep regular hours. You know, we would have people coming up to us all the time asking, oh, when's the food place going to open? So somebody's missing out on that, I think, because as we all know, G-Clock Beach is continuing to grow and get busier. And again, for us being located right next to it, I think it would help us and everybody.
I just have one thing for clarification. When you're renting the beach, that is separate from being the business owner. I mean, you're doing a rental application, a rental fee, and all of that. So I don't think it would be fair to make somebody pay a vendor's fee when they're renting it as a guest or they're renting it for an event. That's always been separate. That's not something that we combine with a business, and I don't think that's something that we should look at even doing. This is my opinion about that. Thank you.
Can you tell me why?
Right, thank you.
Thank you.
Don't do it.
Right, next we have an agenda update. Deputy City Manager. Man, you know, we talked about this last meeting.
So, just for the sake of time and brevity, there will be, I'll have a resolution for you at the next commission meeting for that purpose. Okay.
So you do have a, thank you.
No, there was no other.
All right, next we have, Update Wakanda project.
The Wakanda project, it's not just Wakanda, that's where the end of the issues that we're having, or challenges that we're having, end up at. What we have is there's a storm sewer line, a sanitary sewer line that takes the whole northeast corner of the city. It goes from Highland into Benton, and Benton, it goes all the way over to, through the ravine, up, and comes over on to Wakanda, and then all that drains down there. What we're finding is that things are traveling and getting stuck in that area. There's a lot of investigation and work that's being done over there to find out exactly what's causing it and keeps it going. So once it's done, because like I said, what we're finding is we're finding some bellies and collapses in the old clay tile that's there, and we're replacing it with HPVC, which is a much better, at this time, a much better material than the clay pipes, because clay pipes end up being about 2 feet long, and they hook together. They last a long time, but they allow infiltration of roots, they allow for infiltration of water that comes from the outside, and that just makes it a mess. So what we're having, again, is just having to trace and find out all the stuff that's going on.
I guess some of my concerns, I was, matter of fact, looking at a video, I think that Commissioner Adams had posted, where Meeks, I know they did some work. Now, is this the same spot where we've seen B and Z come back?
You got two different areas. There's problems that are occurring in the same vicinity because it's one pipe that drains the whole side. So you're having additional issues that are coming up post what they did, some of what they did, and then post what they did.
So did any of the spot they dug up for the new concrete, they had to be taken back up again to do some more work?
Do believe so, but I'd have to check and see. Jeff, I can get you a full report on that. Like I said, I didn't know that this was on the agenda, so again, I wasn't prepared to address it, but I can get that information and get it to you, Commissioner.
And a straight to the point question is to now, was there any work that was done that wasn't done right, whereas a bond would cover it to go back and fix it?
I don't know. I don't believe so. What you got over on Wakanda in all that area, from Wakanda, like I said, it starts on Benton Street and it goes toward that area. What you've got is one massive pipe that goes all the way down into the interceptor and then carries both storm and sanitary. You got a storm sewer that goes down there and you got a sanitary. We've got another issue that's going to be coming up soon, we're going to have to address, where the storm part of it that runs down Stevens Street is going to have to be repaired. The sewer line is another one that, again, we've got some areas of the city that have 100-year-old clay tile. And what happens is once you get one starts, it just kind of keeps going. Because once you replace one part, then the other part gets disturbed. So we're just basically trying to make sure we shore all of that area, because again, it drains everything on that side of town.
So the work that was done, that I think was like $60,000.
$58,000.
That was to fix what?
That was a part of where it came out of John Street and turned down Wakanda. From that part going there. This is another part that extends down further, where there's a house and there was a part that was an embedded storm sewer that was done years ago that we're now finding that has collapsed and now causing some more problems. So it's connected to it, but it's not specifically the same one. Absolutely. Yep.
Can I have a question on this, on what kind of project? And I would not have known had I not been sitting at the airport at a meeting. Does this have anything to do, I heard you say when something is disturbed, where is the scepter? The chair?
The Interceptor's in Edwards Park. The old Edwards Park. The old
Does
Edwards
this,
Park.
I know I grew up, well, actually as a little girl, somebody used to babysit me on the other end down by the airport.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that that's the entrance of Whirlpool. Down in front, is that where they have a hole or something going on there?
Entrance of Whirlpool.
Yeah, Whirlpool has an entrance there into the airport,
Okay.
all the way down, right?
At the very end.
Right, at the very end.
In the township.
Okay, there's a hole there where it's a crater or something that was happening, and it must have been, I don't know if it's a
That
pipe.
part of it is in the township.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, but did we ever solve that problem? Was it ever on us, or, I think they took care of it.
The far east end, far east end, where Woodland turns into Wakanda,
Okay.
right there, that's the township.
My main question, through the chair, is that area that I just made mention of, you said that's the township, is that where our water source was cut off?
Yes,
The airport?
yes.
Oh, okay, so it has caused all of this.
It's-
I'm sure, that was just saying. I didn't even need an answer, I just had a feeling that's exactly what the problem is. What Joe Harris said.
All right, next, moving on, next we have bond for Manchester Bidwell
Stay
discussion.
here.
Mr. Adams, you got something to say about that?
Yes, Honorable Chair, I asked you to put this on the agenda because I sent an email and informed all of the commissioners, for those that wanted to attend Manchester Bidwell, to let me know we need a head count. The tour will be is set to take place March 25th. And the Brownfield Authority Board is paying for it, as it has paid for all of the travels and lodge in times past. That's what it does. Besides the 4 Brownfield Authority Board members, I think that there were 4 that they were willing out of the commissioners as well, and we need a count. We need a count of who's going, and I guess after talking to Mark, we were so used to then Nicole making our lodge plans. So, and that was planned economic development. If we could get Miss Jennings to make our arrangements for us and take care of them with the Brownfield giving the reimbursement for the costs.
Reimbursing the cost of the trip.
The travel,
or
yeah.
Or her time.
The whole thing.
Okay. If they're
No, not her.
No.
I said make the arrangements for her.
So, once again, because she is paid out of community development block grant dollars,
Oh,
her time has to be compensated because it's not a community development activity.
how come it isn't?
It isn't. You don't have it in your annual action plan.
Oh, okay, wait. Okay, you're right.
Yeah,
You're right.
you can't.
You're right.
Yeah.
Even though it's something economically
But that's the
for
economic.
the city.
But the
Okay,
economic
okay, but
development-
I understand.
Yeah, the economic
Because I think
development
Nicole was doing something out there.
Clerk can do it.
No, I'll get somebody to do it. But,
Why can't-
that
Why
won't,
can't Chris do it?
that, I'll get with her.
Yeah.
I'll get with her. But it won't be a problem with the city paying, covering the cost.
One clerk can do it.
And the, city of Benton Harbor, the Brownfield reimburse the city?
Have the clerk do it.
Yeah, we'd have to have an agreement with them that they do that. And-
Well, that's what I'm asking to come out of this committee, because I don't wanna wait and I'm looking stupid. I've only been waiting 15 years, and now we got a training school down here next door to a damn liquor store.
So you need a resolution or something?
Right, I guess I need to understand what's
Hey, wait a
being.
minute, hey, you need the resolution for the,
What resolution, do you need a resolution from the city or from the Brownfield board?
everything is good on the brownfields, but, he said he spoke with you, emailed you, he shared the email with me.
I haven't talked to Mark since he first sent the original one, but I haven't, the
Then I guess
logistics.
it was the original one with
Yeah.
an understanding that the brownfield was going to reimburse the city.
Yeah, but we
For the
haven't talked,
cost.
we haven't talked logistics since then.
Okay, well, can we do that?
Yeah, I need to.
And can we get,
I'll talk.
if we have to have a special meeting, we do that too. Wasting nobody's time, no time.
Thank you, everybody, for attending the meeting tonight.
Wait, one
Have a
question
good night,
for you.
drive
Would
safe.
you please?
One question I need to know, where?
Let's write a letter.
Course, did it, get consensus to be passed to the full body?
Now, we're gonna make sure everybody look at this agreement.
Making us look like-
This, look at this.
What I would,
Stop that.
just a suggestion
He ain't no
is
friend of
Oh,
to
the attorney,
redo,
I forgot.
He ain't no friend of mine.
redo the document
He ain't no
Said
friend of mine.
myself.
and then submit it to the
I'm
commission.
serious, and I
So
tell
they
him
can
to his
then
face,
look
and I
at
can't
a
wait
revised
to see it.
document.
He called my
And
meeting.
then if there's anything that needs to be added or subtracted, we can do it at that time.
I wouldn't be surprised, cause you don't mess with God.
I'm not gonna
and-
revise
and
it.
think that
Who
you-
gonna revise
The
it?
attorney's gonna revise
My
it.
new property.
And what is he gonna put on there? Did
No.
he give any recommendations?
No, that's what I'm saying. We need to, you did give some recommendations, Commissioner.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah, you talked about a number of things in, that the clerk has.
Is
And then we
summer
can put that in
time or
there.
Get
something?
some love.
Oh, I forgot, he, okay,
Yep.
that's all.
I'm what?
Working on
I'm what? Uh-huh.
Yep.